When thinking about the different discipline models, I believe I will use the three different types: penalty, reward, and win-win in my future classroom. Now, after I read and learned about all the different discipline models, I could not just pick one. I feel they all have different pros and cons, and together they would effectively work to support my philosophy in my future classroom. So let's talk about penalty a little bit. I believe the penalty system is effective when consequences are stated prior to the activity. So let's just use the paint example from the case study. It does no good to reprimand the student if they didn't know there was consequences for throwing the paint. So I think the teacher should use the penalty model because it's important for kids to know what's expected of them and know that their actions do have consequences, because that's how it is in life. If you park where you're not supposed to park, you get a ticket, and that was a consequence of your actions. So I do believe it's important for kids to have reasonable consequences when their behaviors do not follow prior set expectations upon them. With that being said, I don't think it's good to punish the children for no reason, or if you didn't say there wasn't going to be a consequence, you can't just make it up out of thin air. Similarly, I believe the consequences should fall in line with the code of conduct you have established. Otherwise, there is no point, because the students did not know what was expected of them. Regarding rewards, I do think it's important to celebrate kids when they do what they're supposed to do. If they follow the classroom rules, I don't see anything wrong with giving them a marble to add to the kindness jar and a big prize when the whole marble's filled up. It maybe will give kids something to work towards and to feel good about themselves, while also promoting the good behavior. On the flip side, I also can see how if there's no reward involved, maybe the kid or the child would not want to do the action or behave because they don't get a reward. So somehow we need to take that and instill that once the reward is gone, you should still do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And lastly, with win-win, I think it is so important that the teacher takes time to talk it out with students, to have strong relationships and communication in the classroom so that together they can figure out a solution and what went wrong. And I wrote this down because I thought it was so important that it teaches shared responsibility when the teacher and students are working together to solve the problem that occurred. However, the teacher does not always have time to go and sit down and talk with the students. In the paint case study example, the teacher didn't have time to go sit and talk with the student. I mean, she could have, but some actions need to be taken care of in the moment. And that's why I think a balanced system of penalty, reward, and win-win would be most effective in the classroom, because together they cover everything and their cons outweigh each other. Because for reward, penalty outweighs it because the child, whenever appropriate, has consequences and they realize that they need to do what is expected of them. Now, regarding these different models in my philosophy, they go hand in hand. So one of my big themes is teacher accountability. And I believe it's the teacher's job to care for and have a beneficial, well-running classroom for her students. And all three of these models allows the teacher to do that. They know what's expected of them, they are rewarded when they do great things, and also the teacher takes time to talk and communicate with them when things go awry. Again, a balance of all three models. Speaking of talking, another one of my philosophies is language. I think it's so important how the teacher talks to students. It's just what we say can impact them for a lifetime. So that's why the win-win would be really good for this, because it's the teacher taking time to sit down and communicate with students when something goes awry. The teacher is getting to know them, taking the time to listen to them, and taking time to come up with something together. Language also is evident in penalty because the teacher needs to have clear language expectations of what the action should be and what the consequences are. And positive language is used with rewards when the teacher is excited and celebrating the child. In my last theme in my philosophy is a democratic classroom. I believe it's important that the teacher and students are working together. Again, this goes with win-win because the teacher and students are working to solve the problem together using communication and language. And the consequences also could be a democratic classroom because the teacher could have students help decide what they think fair consequences are if they don't follow the expectations. And same with rewards. What reward would you like when you follow the behavior that's expected of you? That's why I believe all three models, penalty, reward, and win-win, fit in with my philosophy nicely. And I don't think I could just pick one because I think it takes all three to run a successful classroom. Thanks.